you are Christian. So what can I do for you?
Actually, I would like to ask the question about the history of the Quran and the history of the Muslim faith. So,
Sure.
when Hussein ibn Ali gets killed in Iraq,
Okay.
that's a tragic incident, right?
Okay.
So,
it is a tragic incident.
Yeah,
Yes.
so I am asking, does the Umayyads have legitimacy despite causing such atrocity over the Shia people or the people of the same the book? Yeah.
Yeah, well, we don't believe they did that, but that's a really strange question to come from someone who's a Christian. Really, really strange, because okay, you need to understand first, there is historical narratives that Shia will have, and there is historical narratives that Ahl Sunnah, which is the overwhelming majority, over 90% of Muslims, will have. They're not the same historical event. So we do believe that the people of Najd, or the people in Iraq, in that region, the people who actually killed Hussein, were not the people from the Sunnah or any of that. We don't believe any of that. So if you are bringing like another historical narrative from the opposite side or something like that, I think you're delving into things which are a little bit above, I would say, what you can understand. Because all of these texts will be, the primary text for these things will be in Arabic, not in English. And you wouldn't really understand what's going on.
No, I understand this because it's not a Shia or Sunni source. It's a historical source, which is analyzed.
Which source is that?
So, okay, search up First Fitna, and there are multiple books that say that Hussein was
No, which books? Which books? Which contemporary books that have first person accounts of the events? Which would that have different narrative to what we have? Go ahead, tell me one book.
I think there is a book called First Fitna, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, that's a recent book.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Talking about something that was written. I'm not talking about something that was written right now. You're talking about a historical event. You know, history works through first. Yeah, history works through testimony, first person testimony of events taking place. So, or people who are around that time, or people who are very close to that time, that have written about the event. Now, can you give me what are these sources that you're claiming, the new sources that are a complete new revelation for us, different than the narratives that we have? Where are you bringing them from? Because anyways, what happened in the Muslim land, the Muslim empire. The only people who wrote about this were Muslims. And those two Muslims had either a view with a different position. So there's only two narratives that you can present.
Oh, I didn't think so. Because, okay, this incident is called the Battle of Karbala, which happened in Iraq in October 680. Yeah, 680. And what I'm referring is a source that was written by the Persians, who were some Muslims, some Zoroastrians, which is quite neutral. And I'm asking that.
No. What source is that? Let's really. What source is that? What's the name of the source?
Like multiple books, and it's historical.
What multiple books are you talking about? What is that?
It's just a battle. Like it's a.
I just saw you Googling something, and you mentioned the Battle of Karbala, and you think you know what you're saying. But with all due respect, like I said, these things are above your pay grade. But you're refusing. Okay, can you tell me what was the Battle of Karbala about without looking at your screen? Look at me.
Yeah.
So no, you look at a different place. Yeah, look at me.
I am not.
Sure.
I am not. Yeah, I am
sure.
not. Hussein ibn Ali was killed by the Umayyad in the battle. Why?
Why?
Search it up. I'm asking you to search it up. I was trying to cite you Britannica.
Search what up? I don't need to search anything.
Which you stopped me from, but it is a
battle. Yeah. I'm stopping you from Googling something and telling it to me in the middle of the conversation, because that's not how conversations work. Conversations works to people who actually have done their investigation and know what's going on.
No, I have
not people who Google. Not people who Google things mid conversation.
Okay. Secondly, the issue I'm finding here.
What? Secondly, you haven't told me why the Battle of Karbala happened. Why have the Battle of Karbala? No. Can you tell me first why the Battle of Karbala happened?
Okay, the Battle of Karbala happened because Hussein was actually going to the funeral. He was doing nothing wrong. He wasn't even claiming the caliph. He was actually
whose funeral? Claiming caliph? What are you talking about?
Yeah, Hussein ibn Ali. So Muhammad's grandson and Ali's son. He was going to the funeral, and
whose funeral?
Well, it says it's a funeral, and
what says?
Britannica says, like. So, and could I continue? Because that's not the main part. The main part is I'm saying that Hussein's party, or at least his family who was going with him, were brutally massacred by the Umayyad forces despite doing nothing wrong. And that's why
And how do you know
Ashura,
that?
the Shia festival, is such a well famed and a celebrated event for the Shia people. And I am asking that why did the Umayyads have to do that? And do they still have the legitimacy despite killing the people of their own faith? Yeah.
I just told you that you have no idea what you're talking about, and
I am
everything
not.
you just
Okay.
and everything you just said is incorrect. And then you're asking me. I told you already. Narratives, historical narratives that you bring in from Encyclopedia
How
Britannica.
is historical narrative
not,
inaccurate? Like
historical. Can I finish? What I'm saying?
You may
I allowed you to finish. Okay, sure. Historical narratives that you're bringing from Encyclopedia Britannica, from a source that you cannot even name, many books, and none of which are contemporary that you're able to present to us, we don't accept. We don't rely on Encyclopedia Britannica to know what the history that happened and the history that didn't happen. And he wasn't going to a funeral and then he was killed in a battlefield because he was going to a funeral, which makes no logical sense, by the way.
Then why was he killed?
So can you tell me?
Can you tell me?
Can you tell me why does a Christian ask about how Hussein was killed? Tell me about that. That's what I really am interested in, please. Yeah, enlighten me.
Because aren't you? So I put it this way: I myself is a Catholic theologian, but I also identify myself as a philosopher. And as a philosopher, I want to also incorporate historical narratives that are neutral in these discussions. That's why I first asked about, in a broad sense, how to view Shia. I think the incidents in Karbala must be discussed. So I raised the question about how do you feel Muhammad's grandson being killed by the Umayyads?
I have no feelings about that because I disagree. I don't believe that Umayyads are the ones who killed Hussein radiallahu anhu. I believe it was actually the people who call themselves Shia of Ali are the people who killed Hussein, and they are the ones who sent him a letter, and he accepted. And he accepted. Look, you asked me a question.
That's not factual.
You asked.
You're conflating two things.
What's factual? You don't even know what you're talking about. You don't even.
I know what
you
I'm
have zero.
Okay,
you have zero clue about this information, and then when I'm telling you actual information, search it up where? Google it like you. Google it like you.
Yeah,
are you a troll or are you here to actually
Google it like me?
No, I'm not going to Google it because I'm not like
I was trying to provide you better evidence, and you blame me for Googling, right? So, sir, Google it or just Google it. Honestly, it does say Hussein was killed by the Umayyads. So,
okay, yeah. I disagree with your Google source. Anything else would you like to talk about that you actually have sources for? Other than Encyclopedia Britannica for Islamic history of what happened?
Yeah, then. Okay, let's talk about this. In Islamic history, they make infidels pay jizya, which is extra tax, right? Yeah. So what's your take on that, firstly?
It's not extra tax. Can you tell me what the jizya is?
Well, it is a tax on infidels, isn't it?
No, do you know what the jizya is?
Yeah, Christians have to pay it. Jews have to pay it. Other religions have to pay it.
That's not that you're saying who should pay the jizya. You're not saying what the jizya is. What is the jizya?
It's a tax. That's what I'm saying.
What kind of tax and why is it applied?
It is a tax levied on infidels, right?
Not right. That's incorrect.
Then why is it?
So you don't. So the answer is you don't know what the jizya is.
Why is it? No. So, okay. What part of my definition is wrong?
You just said who needs to pay the jizya, but you're not saying why they need to pay the jizya and under what context or how much is the jizya.
Then please tell me.
So yeah, so you don't know, correct?
Yeah, if you put it that way.
Or you know. No, it's not if I put it that way. Do you know or you don't know? Which one is it?
Like, if you mention context, historically in Tunisia, there were incidents where Muslims were actually asked to pay the jizya. So I think context here is a very
Nobody pays the jizya.
In the 15th century,
nobody pays the jizya. We pay the jizya. But we're not talking about what someone did in Tunisia. We're talking about the religious ruling of the jizya, not the jizya.
Yes. Yeah.
So do you know what Islam teaches and not what happened some point in history, what someone did in Tunisia, which we've not provided the source for again, or a year, or an event, or a group of people who did it, just like some random stuff. Books is somewhere here and there, and he was going for a funeral and someone killed him. Can you actually tell me what the jizya is?
I said.
Or just say I don't know. Or just say I don't know.
It's levied on infidels.
Why do they pay the tax? Why is the tax paid for? What's the reason?
You have to explain me that, because I think that's wrong.
So say you don't know.
How is it I don't know? Because my definition isn't wrong.
No, you don't know what the jizya is paid for, so you don't know what the jizya is. Simple. So are you going to humble yourself and say you don't know? Or you're not going to humble yourself and going to pretend you know, like you didn't know anything about Hussein?
No, I know.
Do you know about the jizya? I'm going to ask you a simple question. Do you know about the jizya or you don't know? It's a very simple question. Yes or no? Do you know or you don't know? You know. Okay, so why do they pay the jizya?
Because they are infidels, aren't they?
No, that's wrong. So you don't know. So you are ignorant, clearly. And not only ignorant, but you have what we call compounded ignorance. So you are the worst category possible of people when it comes to knowledge, because there are three categories. There's knowledgeable category, someone who knows what they're talking about, which clearly isn't you. And there's a middle category, which is people who are ignorant. And these people are humble. So they ask for information. Please, can you teach me about this? And that's clearly also not you, because you're not humble. You are in the compounded ignorance category, which is a person who doesn't know, but he thinks he knows when he doesn't know. So that is the worst category, because first you need to educate them that they don't know what they're talking about. Then you need to teach them, even though they're arrogant and refusing to accept that they don't know what they're talking about, that they don't know what they're talking about. So you are in the worst category of people, sadly. In the Quran, Allah Azza wa mentions the jizya in the Quran, in chapter 9 of the Quran. It's a tax for specific type of people. Who are those people? They are the military-aged male combatants. Who is it for? It's for the military-aged male combatants. So children, women, old people who are poor, who have no money, anyone who has zero money to pay, anyone who's like, let's say, a priest or a monk who doesn't work or whatever, all of these categories of people are exempt from the jizya. The people who are not exempt from the jizya are the military-aged male combatants. Why do they pay the tax? They pay the tax because in return of that tax, it's a tax of protection. So if a war happens, Muslims will go and fight and die for those non-Muslims who will be safely in the Muslim land while Muslims are fighting on their behalf to protect them. Now, the jizya, though, is a tax specifically for military-aged male combatants. Now, on the other hand, this tax, which is limited and it's specific, it doesn't increase or decrease based on how much money you have. On the other hand, Muslims have to pay something called the zakah, which is 2.5%. The jizya can be 1 dinar, 2 dinar, 3 dinar, 4, depending on the school of thought of the judge that is going to apply the jizya and the Islamic ruling, which is very, very small amount of money. Now, Muslims, on the other hand, have to pay 2.5% of their wealth yearly. And this 2.5% is dependent on your wealth. If you have a lot of money, it'd be 2.5%. It can be millions. Now, it fluctuates and it can be different based on the amount of savings and money that you have as a person. On the other hand, the non-Muslim who's living, a woman doesn't need to pay the jizya. A child doesn't need to pay the jizya. An old, poor man doesn't need to pay the jizya. All of these people don't need anything. Now, on the other hand, the military-age combatant are going to pay, so they don't need to fight. But Muslims are going to pay 2.5% of their wealth. Not only that, they're going to fight also. So it's not only that they're paying 2.5% of zakah, which is going to the Baitul Mal, which is the house of money, the house of the state affairs to improve the state, which the non-Muslim who's living there is also benefiting from. The Muslims are not only paying that money, they're also fighting when war happens. So there is nothing more beautiful, I would say, than jizya. And that's why the Jewish people, for example, who were running away from Christians like yourself from the Crusades, and they went to Morocco and they begged, said, please, let us pay the jizya, because the jizya is a very small amount of money. The only military-age combatants will pay, and take us in and protect us from those Crusades who want to chop our heads off with words of, oh, we love everyone and peace and love and whatever. So this jizya that you keep talking about, jizya, is the most merciful command that you can find in an Islamic state. On the other hand, when Christians went into a land, what they did is they plundered the land, took everything in the land, as it mentioned in Deuteronomy chapter 20, verse 10. Look, I give you references. Unlike you, I'm not going to say it's written in books on Encyclopedia Britannica, on some random source that doesn't exist. No, the Bible explicitly mentions and teaches if you go and you conquer a city, you'll take over a city or siege a city and take it, you take all of the goods in it for yourself. Now, so if you want to talk about that and what happens in war, I think you should start with your book and what your book teaches that you need to do to people before you talk about the jizya. So that's what the jizya is, my friend.
Okay, so may I respond?
You asked me a question. It's not a debate. You asked me a question and I responded to it. But go ahead. What do you want to say?
Yeah, so I thank you for raising that. But my question to that is, when you said Christians weren't levied for forces, the army, right? You effectively said that.
I don't know what you just said, so you need to clarify that.
You're saying Christians weren't used as army forces in the Muslim military, right?
I didn't say that. I said the people who live under an Islamic state, they pay the jizya in return of not fighting. So it's a tax that they would pay. The military age combatants only. So you skipped conveniently everyone else who doesn't pay it, which literally everyone else who's a non-Muslim, who's living under a Muslim state. They don't need to pay the jizya. Now, in the exchange, they get protection. They're protected even under a Muslim land. If a Muslim in a Muslim state fights someone who pays the jizya, which we call a dhimmi person, that means they have the protection of Allah and His Messenger, the dhimma of Allah and His Messenger. They have the protection of Allah and His Messenger. Those people who have the protection, if a Muslim fights them under an Islamic state, the army of Muslims will fight the Muslims to protect them. So Muslims will fight other Muslims to protect non-Muslims because they are people who are paying the jizya and they earn the protection of Allah and His Messenger. The Prophet has explicit text of good treatment of these people, not cursing them, not belittling them, not doing anything bad to them because they have a protection of Allah and His Messenger. The Prophet said, if you hurt them, it's like you hurt me. These are the people that you try to talk about saying, pay the jizya. And all Muslims who live, pay taxes under your rule. Every Christian nation that exists have all of these 30, 50% taxes that they want to take half of your money that you earned in your work for absolutely no reason whatsoever. And if you're a citizen, you will also fight. So there is nothing better and more merciful than Islamic commands when it comes to things like the jizya.
My question is this. In the fourth siege of Constantinople in 751, which was under the Umayyads against Eastern Roman Emperor Leon IV, why was Egyptians who were paying the jizya used as forces?
Okay, can you stop Googling things, please? And
no, I wasn't Googling. Okay, I'm being very honest.
Do you know, listen, let me teach you the last thing now before I remove you. Now, do you know when Amr ibn al-As went to Egypt and opened Egypt and conquered Egypt, if you want to use the term conquered, who was the leader at the time? You see now, if you know history, because you clearly don't know anything about Egypt. So tell me, who was the leader? Yeah, look at your screen.
Who's the Egypt?
I'll wait for you.
Sorry,
I'll wait for you.
Repeat
yes.
It, please.
No. I'll look for your screen when the answer comes.
Yeah.
Who is the leader? When Amr ibn al-As went to Egypt, who is the leader at the time?
I couldn't hear the first one.
Who is the Amr ibn al-As is the name of a person who opened Egypt. You clearly don't even know who that person is, but that person
Egypt? What?
Yes, who conquered Egypt. Then Muslims entered into Egypt. Before that, Muslims were not in Egypt at all because you asked the question about Egypt. So when Amr ibn al-As went to Egypt, before that, listen. Don't interrupt.
Yeah.
Don't interrupt.
No. Okay.
Before Muslims, don't interrupt. Before Muslims went to Egypt, who was the leader appointed by the Roman Empire? Who is the leader at that time in Egypt?
I know Emperor Hercules was. Emperor Hercules was the leader of the Roman Empire.
He wasn't. The emperor was not in Egypt, ruling Egypt. Who was appointed by the Roman Empire to lead and to rule Egypt that time? Before Muslims.
I don't know.
Okay. It was a person called Al-Muqawqis. Now, do you know what Al-Muqawqis did to the Coptic Christians of Egypt? Do you know what happened to the high priest Benjamin?
He was a Melkite, yes. So he was against the Coptic Christians in Egypt, which
so what did he do? So now you asked me about Shia and Hussein, all of that. Now let's look at what Christians do to other Christians. Now, can you tell me what the Christian appointed by the Roman Emperor did to other Christians who are his brothers in faith, who are the Coptic Christians, before Muslims came in? Can you tell me what they did?
I think it's pretty not bad compared to what Hussein had to suffer.
So do you know what happened or you don't know?
Well, if you claim that So if you claim that
compounded ignorance again, do you know? I'm going to ask the question again. I'm going to ask the question.
I don't know.
I'm going to ask the question again because to show your don't interrupt. Wait,
before we move on, do you really?
No, we're not moving on. No, we're not moving on. We're still on the same. We're not moving on. We're still on that topic. I'm asking the question, and again with your compounded ignorance, I'm asking you the question. Do you know?
I said I don't know.
Do you know?
But
okay,
but my
perfect.
question is.
So let me teach you. Let me teach you.
Do you know
Wait,
about?
No, I'm not done.
Do you know?
I'm not done. I'm not done.
Yeah, then
let me finish teaching you. So that time, the leader was Al-Muqawqis, who was appointed by the Roman Empire. And because the Christians in Egypt were Coptic Christians, and they did not like Coptic Christians, and they believed they had many heretical beliefs and whatever, what they did is they turned the churches into dump bins that you put your trash in. They killed the high priest or his brother, Benjamin, and they chopped him to pieces and cut him to pieces, and they burned his body and they threw him in the sea. So imagine killing someone like this. You kill someone, you cut him to pieces, you burn his body. Wait, listen. I'm not done. I'm speaking. Don't interrupt.
Yeah.
They cut his body to pieces, they burned his body, and they threw him in the sea. Now, is that only? No. Now, his brother or the high priest, whoever who was alive, they ran to the desert because the Christians could not live because all of the churches were turned into bins, garbage bins, and they will kill them persecuted, like what happened with the high priest. Now, where is this information? Now, this information is a Muslim source. Now, unlike you, I'm not going to say book online, Encyclopedia Britannica. I'm not going to do that. I'm actually going to give you a source. The source is something called the Book of the Sanksar. Now, you can Google that. The Book of the Sanksar is a Christian Coptic book that they still have it today, where they record their own history. So they record in their own history. They tell you when Al-Muqawqis was leading us, killing the high priest and cutting him to pieces and burning his body and throwing him in the sea, when Amr ibn al-As, the Muslim, came and opened Egypt, first thing is he treated us with respect. He cleaned the churches. He sent a letter to the high priest or his brother, whoever ran to the desert, and told them to come back. He wrote the treaty with them that they will have the honor and respect and protection of Muslims. Now, are there times and events where non-Muslims, they themselves chose to go and fight with Muslims when there was battles because they were treated so well and nicely and respectfully under Muslim lands? Yes, of course. Now, since I taught you that, and I taught you all of the other information, I would like you to take your compounded ignorance, please, and realize and understand that you don't know what you're talking about. And the only people who are killing other people and persecuting them are Christians in this case. Not what Hussein did, what Hussein didn't do in Karbala, and all of this stuff, which has no relevance to obviously creeds of Muslims or Christians. It's just red herrings that you're coming with because you have nothing against Islam. All you're trying to bring is a historical event, which has different narratives in our book than it would in other people's books. And you're trying to, how do you feel? Some emotional question. How do you feel about this historical event? How does that prove or disprove Islam? Now, the people who actually have a firm foundation, they ask about the foundations of their religion. Like, for example, I'll ask you this question. Where did Jesus claim to be God?
Where did Jesus? In the Gospels. So
where?
When he says, I am, in the Gospel of John.
I am. So I'm claiming to be God now, yeah? Since
I
am the Muslim answer. I'm claiming to be God now. Can you tell me where?
Okay,
so where and how is the statement I am or Jesus ever claiming to be God in the New Testament? Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So basically, this is when the point it comes about not analyzing it, not literally, but allegorically. And Jesus, so basically, he uses that statement in order to prove that he is God. And again, so about this part though, I would actually admit that I'm using Pope Benedict's book, so Pope Benedict XVI's book. So this isn't really my strong part, but I admit this, yeah. But that's how I argue, and that book is what I found my foundation.
So you just give us a word salad by the name of a book. I asked you, you literally gave us nothing. I asked you the question, where does Jesus claim? You see, this is a problem. Like with Christians, like they baffle me sometimes. The very basic foundations of the religion, the ABC of their own faith, they have no proof for. They don't even know a reference to a verse. You just mentioned I am, they didn't even know which verse, what context, nothing. And they're coming and trying to ask us about Hussein and how do you feel emotionally about this person dying and that person dying? Bro, please, do educate yourself. With all due respect, educate yourself.
With all my respect.
No, listen.
Okay,
I dealt with you. Let me finish what I'm saying. I dealt with you that way because you have pretended to be a person who's knowledgeable, has been arrogant when you're told when you don't know something, and you pretended to tell me I'm wrong about things which we tell you about our own history. I would usually deal with you very respectfully and nicely, but you are someone who are arrogant and who doesn't understand that they don't know what they're talking about. So the reason I dealt with you is to teach you that. You don't know what you're talking about. Please go read some books, get educated first about your own religion, because you clearly don't even know where your God said he's God. So start with your own faith, with your own religion. Where did Jesus ever claim to be God? Where is the Trinity? How can you prove your book is even from God? Is it historically reliable? Start with these things. And then come and ask us about Hussein and Karbala and all of these things which you clearly have zero clue about. He's going to a funeral.
Okay,
And then he was killed in war. Okay?
The
So
dates were
please do
accurate,
that.
and I did not Google, and I really want to clarify that. So, yeah.
Okay, sure. We're
I did
ending
not
with this
Google. Yeah,
final
let's
debate.
end
We're
here.
ending with this final
Yeah.
statement of yours. Jong Lee, 2005 May. I did not Google. In quotation marks. All right.
Yeah, thank you.
Maybe we'll talk at a different time. Maybe we'll not. But bye-bye. See you.